Hello, everyone. I'm Grant Cohn, joined by Sybilla Bakzaza, who made her debut last week on the All 49ers Women's Roundtable. She's back today to talk about injuries, Kyle Shanahan, and Ben Peterson, who's a very interesting figure in the 49ers injury drama, but we're not going to get to him yet. We want to start with Jeff Wilson Jr. You've had a lot you want to say about this particular injury. We've been conversing via email about this particular subject. You're passionate about it. I'd love you to share what your feelings about the Jeff Wilson Jr. injury.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. How are you today?
I'm great. I've been looking forward to this all day.
All right, awesome.
How are you doing?
Get right to it. So one of the things I think led to the injury that Jeff Wilson Jr. had was probably squatting. And I want to jump right into that and what I really think the 49ers are not doing, as is evidenced by the fact that practices have been dialed back to 1 hour.
Yes.
And I'm going to get to that at the end. So the first thing with Jeff Wilson's injury, whenever you're doing front, I'm more of a fan of front squats because if you put yourself in a position where you're overlifting or you have to bail out, it will fall off because it's up here in front. So it's less injury prone. However, back squats are easier. You're stronger with your back squat. And so the ego is boosted by how much you can back squat.
That's what I do. Back squats.
Right. And they're great for your glutes and things like that. But it's not as squat intensive. And as a result, you do not engage your patella in the same way. So whenever you're doing back squats, you need to, first you should have activated. I can almost guarantee they're not spending the 30 minutes of activation they need to do.
Oh, I don't do that. I don't know what that means.
Basically, for wide receivers, they should be doing skipping and then jogging and then actually do like maybe a quarter mile, half mile run. Then do glute activators, like they call them fire hydrants, the less vulgar version. Okay. Things like that. These humble things that, to be honest with you, even for me, are annoying.
Yes.
But you have to do them. And these guys, this is their job. So whenever you're doing like back squats or leg extensions, non-elliptical exercises like leg extensions, which I do not recommend, the patella extends. Because of the engagements, and you have to strengthen the muscles that connect your tendons around that, and you have to deactivate them as well. You cannot just go straight from lifting to sitting down. That's actually the worst thing you can do. And what did the reports say?
He went straight from lifting to sitting down.
Right. So his patella was basically not engaged properly. When he went to sit up, to use layman's terms, I think he was probably more free floating. And that's why it was able to grind the way that it did. And the doctor that you had on the show, he made the point that it has to do with conditioning. So I'm calling it activation and deactivation exercise. He called it conditioning. That's basically what I mean. It's the same thing. They are not conditioning these guys properly, guaranteed.
Warm-ups and cool-downs.
Exactly. But the problem is you'll see it at the gym. How many guys go straight to lifting?
That's what I do. And then I walk out. And then I get hurt.
Sometimes you don't have a lot of time. I mean, you're also a journalist and a reporter. So like,
and I'm terrible at lifting. I don't know what I'm doing. I just go in there and I look and see what one guy's putting up. And I'm like, I might be stronger. Let me put up a higher number. And then I feel better about myself.
Right. And I don't want to call him out. He's one of my favorite 49ers.
Yes.
You guys will be able to figure this out. He can squat around 600 pounds, but he only does a half squat. What's the point of that? You know who I'm talking about. What is the point of that? This is that ego lifting. And I really hate to say, because these guys, they have passion, they care for the game, but someone needs to really pull the leash on this and make sure, guys, don't care how much you're squatting today if you don't warm up.
Right. And it's so competitive, right? I need to squat more than this guy. I need to prove that I'm the alpha in this room. And then that leads to, bad form.
And especially for Jeff Wilson Jr., I don't think there's a guy on this team who probably feels more competitive. And the reason I say that is because he's got Raheem Mostert, who is, I hate to say it, a little bit injury prone.
Yep.
And so he's like, you know what? I need to prove to Kyle and the rest of the staff, not only am I the better goal line back, I can still catch the ball, I'm still explosive, and I'm stronger, and I'm more durable. So he's probably more motivated to have done what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. He was set up to do it. There's another thing that's interesting about what the Niners aren't doing, or what I've noticed. When Harbaugh was the coach, after first of all, the practices were so long. They weren't high intensity. They would just be kind of leisurely and long, about 3 hours. And then when they were done, whoever the trainer was back then, Mark Uyama, would set up these cold tubs outside, a ton of them. And you just see like all these Niners in the cold tub, and they hated it. It looked awful, but they did it. I mean, Frank Gore was in there all the time, and I just can't help but notice I don't see that anymore. Maybe they do it inside where I'm not noticing, but I don't see the cold tubs anymore. Are those important?
Extremely important.
Yeah.
So I fight full contact. I'm getting punched. I'm having to pivot on my joints. I'm not doing jump cuts, but darn near and things like that. The bottom line is the human body, when it's in a high contact sport, whether it's martial arts or football, honestly, I'd do it if I was a hockey player. It's an anti-inflammatory exercise that you can do. It's literally maintenance and conditioning of your body. You have swollen fingers from catching the football. Randy Moss said Colin Kaepernick broke one of his fingers once with a pass. It doesn't matter what position on the field you are playing, you have to ice yourself. Frank Gore, like the 49er, I think he encompasses all things 49er. And he made the point, I don't like it, but I do it. And that's why I'm still running at my age. I can't remember how many years ago he said that in an interview, but he said, it's the little things. I'm straight to the ice bath. As I recall, he even answered questions from in there before.
Yes. Yeah, I believe he did. I believe he did. He would do it all the time, every day.
Exactly.
And it looked like such a tough guy move,
Yeah, it's anti-inflammatory. So like on a particular day, I'll run, say, 5 miles. I'll do maybe like 90 front squats or some superset like that. There's no way I should then go right back to the gym and be doing lunges and heavy lifting the next day without taking my ice bath. I do it once a week.
True.
I should be doing it every day. I hate it, but I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are all these like tried and true old school methods the Niners could be using to fix this. And it seems like what we learned from the Jeff Wilson Jr. injury is that there's an oversight with a lot of this stuff. So there's another thing I wanted to talk about, like the sports science aspect. The Seahawks are really good at preventing injury. They're better than the Niners. And they for 10 years had like a sports science department in their coaching staff. Guys who were just there to monitor how much exertion the players have given and how much rest they need. And it's like color coded. If a player's in the red, they tell the coaches to back them off, all this stuff. So I'm thinking like, why don't the Niners do this? Why are only the Seahawks doing this? And I know that the Niners have these GPS devices in their pads as well. So theoretically, they do it. So I'm looking up on Google 49ers sports science, who's in charge. And it's freaking Ben Peterson, the head trainer, the guy they've had the last 2 years. Remember, they originally hired this guy, Ray Wright. I guess they felt that he wasn't fixing the injury problem, so they brought in Ben Peterson from the NHL, who was the director of sports science for the Flyers. And I guess the logic back then was there's a higher rate of injury in the NHL. He did a good job with that team in that sport. Let's bring him here. He'll fix the injury issue. 2 years later, it's gotten worse. What do you think of Ben Peterson's culpability here?
So, like we had talked about earlier, there's no way that he does not have the education, that he does not have the smarts to understand the physiology of sports injuries. Just like the doctor you had on the show, there is a certain competency and capacity that you have to have for knowledge of medicine and physiology, the human body. Yeah. This guy went to school for it. Now, hockey, it's a much different sport. It's rough, but it's not the pressing, trench fighting, almost martial arts style of combat that the NFL can be. And they are not gearing up on kickoffs and hitting each other the same way. Yeah, they body check each other, but I think the injuries are different. There's more slippage on ice. I mean, that's like AstroTurf times 10. These guys are more fluid in their motions. They do not have the stop, go, jump guts of the NFL.
True.
So I think the philosophy he's probably not prepared for, but he should be able to diagnose the trends, and he should know about activation and deactivation and guidance and nutrition for these athletes.
Yes.
I kind of feel like maybe the Seahawks are a bit more draconian when it comes to their rules of what the players must do to be culpable and to be competent to play enough for the team. I think the Niners, I like where Nick Bosa is, don't get me wrong, but I never got to go like 2,000 miles away when I was in the Navy. I had to train right there in front of my instructors. This is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, right now, I don't think that they have the right program, but because of Ben Peterson and others, I'm sure it's a trickle effect. I'm sure it's a whole staff, but I just think that they don't have a working knowledge of how to support these guys in their fields. And Ben Peterson, like, he obviously doesn't have the working knowledge of football, but he does have the medical knowledge to do his job. As I said to you, I'm going to throw this word out there. It's like the ultimate sin for a doctor. But I think there's a degree of incompetence here.
I think you're probably right. I mean, look, he was hired because he got results, specifically reducing injuries in a different sport. That's why they brought him in, to reduce the injuries. He's come here and they've gone up. So I guess the logic made sense to a degree. He got the results they were looking for, but now they can say, well, maybe we should get someone who's gotten results in this league, in this sport. That's the next move. I think that's probably what you do. There's probably a very good sports scientist up in Seattle they could hire right now who's more experienced and qualified to do this job than Ben Peterson. No offense, Ben.
Even at the college football level, I mean, I'm sure that we could nab somebody from, say, Arkansas or Alabama or Florida or something like that. Who would not want to go work for an NFL team as opposed to doing that? I think there are a lot of options. I suspect he interviewed very well with John Lynch.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, is it possible that this guy's really good and he's giving Kyle Shanahan the right advice and Kyle isn't taking it? Is that possible?
I might have said that early on. It's possible that he's better than we think, or I mean, we can only judge by the results, but I mean, they're pretty drastic results.
Terrible. Yeah.
The way that Kyle dialed back the practices, I think he feels now I need to do something. So I think he feels that whoever was in control had it wrong. I think he is almost becoming the sports scientist on this team.
Jeez. Because here's the thing. I was reading.
That's a good thing. But I think that he feels that, okay, I let other people make a decision, and now I will have to make it myself. Yeah. And he's wrong. The 1 hour thing, we'll get to that later, but that is so wrong.
I was reading into Ben Peterson, and it said that the way he reduced injuries in the Flyers was dialing back practices, reducing the intensity of practices. Which
so
is like,
maybe it is him. Maybe it is him.
Like, well, where's that happening on the 49? It needs to happen right now. So I don't know.
With what you just said, I would have to say maybe it does come from him. If that's his track record, his snap judgment is to just reduce practice, then it has to be him.
Yeah. Hey, dial it back from 90 minutes to 60 minutes. Well, that just made it more intense. That's like CrossFit at that point.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, CrossFitters still go for any of them with a brain, still go for a jog. They still do a few push-ups. Even when I was testing in special warfare for the pull-ups, I hit 5 pull-ups first, then I go bang out 25 plus. I don't just jump up on that bar and rip my biceps apart.
That's true. Good call.
And you know what? It adds, even for a single exercise, you're adding 2 minutes to every exercise with warm-up.
True. All right. So let's talk about Kyle Shanahan then. We just fired Ben Peterson. Sorry, Ben, it's business. Now we talk about the man who potentially hired Ben Peterson, Kyle Shanahan. It never seems like he has anything at stake. He's already gotten an extension. He's signed through 2025 or something. But if he were to have another losing season this year for some reason, what would happen to his reputation at that point, in your opinion?
Well, I think the 49ers fan base would have a pretty drastic split, but I think 60% of them would be leaning towards the fact that they would be very concerned.
Yeah.
Because even if we can blame it on injuries, there's a culture here, a physiologic culture that has been misestablished. So I have to say, you have to blame that on the coach. I think it should result. I think it will result in a serious talk with Jed York. I think even John Lynch will feel the trickle effect from this because he's still the GM. And I know he's not running the practices, but teamwork. And I think he goes on the hot seat. I really do. As far as his reputation around the league, you still hear that he's considered the offensive guru. I can agree with that. He's an offensive coordinator who seems to be in a head coach's job. Does not have the staff around him, I feel, that he's able to rely on. And I don't think he's within his league to necessarily manage what is going on. So I think his reputation begins to be revised. People will always call him a really good offensive coordinator, but his head coaching will come into strong question.
I totally agree.
There's a question right now, but I think we are also willing to give him a pass at this point. Not all of us, but we still see that there's potential here, and we're waiting. Come on, Kyle, show us that you can adapt to this. Give us a plan and show us this year. We don't have to worry.
Right. Like if he were to have another winning season, 11, 12 wins, maybe just a playoff appearance, his reputation would be good. I mean, you'd look at him as, well, he had some injuries, but when the team is relatively healthy, he wins. He's a good head coach. I think most people still want to think that he's a good head coach, even though he only had one winning season.
If he has a winning season, we will all unreasonably fangirl over this and jump back on his bandwagon.
Yeah, 2 winning seasons. Wow. Right. But if he can't get off the schneid and he's stuck at 1 after year 5, I think even a lot, like you said, 60% of 49er fans will, and not just Niner fans, I mean, media around the country will start to not give him the benefit of the doubt. They'll say what you said. Well, he's a really good offensive coordinator, but so is Norv Turner. So his dad, Mike Shanahan, was a championship head coach. Does Kyle have that type of leadership? You'll have all those questions. And so he needs to win this year. There is something at stake for him. He needs to win this year.
Absolutely. And I think he's also still kind of young. Yes. And I mean, his father was more seasoned, and a lot of other head coaches are more seasoned. I think that, to be honest with you, he is so hyper fixated on what he can control that's what he sees in front of him. He's still an offensive play caller, and I feel like his approach to practice, the whole 1 hour practice thing, is his hyper focus. And he's a hyper focused guy. You can see that.
Yes.
I mean, the best way. He's an offensive idiot savant, literally. Yes. And yes. I think that rolls over into his knowledge. He's a wide receiver. He does understand football. He is an offensive coordinator, but he's not a D lineman. He's not a running back. He's not a super athlete. To be quite honest with you, I never really would have considered him an athlete had he not even played football.
Right. He doesn't look like an athlete.
He wouldn't have made it today.
Yeah. No. Did he ever play? I mean, did he play at Texas? I don't think he played.
I don't know anything about his college career other than I think he was like a third wide receiver or something. Maybe somebody in the chat can figure that out for us. Find that out.
Yeah. He is a lot taller than his dad. His dad's like 5'4".
Red zone threat, ironically.
Red zone threat. Yeah. I don't know where Kyle got the height, but yeah, I'm with you on that. He's got a very specific expertise. That's his thing. He's got a very specific expertise and he's really good at it. But and you call him an idiot savant. I think that's true. I think
we do need him, but we need other people with more power. In other words, like the practices, he shouldn't be running them at all. He should be sitting there with his playbook and just calling plays when they're ready.
Yeah, he should hire a coach who's in charge of practice preparation and planning.
Like Harbaugh.
Yes. He should just have like an accountant, a secretary who does all the planning for him. Because today we're going to practice this much.
Okay. These 1 hour practices, Harbaugh had like 6 water breaks in 3.5 hours.
That's true.
You have to hydrate. You have to take in nutrition while you work out. You don't just bang out 3 hours and not hydrate. Even in an hour, these guys should be hitting water like twice.
I'll never forget. They used to do it all the time. And I'll never forget back when they had Isaac Sopoaga on the team. He was the biggest guy on the team. He would sneak Diet Coke sips. I'd see him do it. There was a little cooler for the coaches and he would sneak in and get a sip of Diet Coke. And Jim Thompson would be like, dude, that's going to kill you. So anyway, I thought that was funny. But I miss Tom. He was a funny position coach who I think pretty much staged a mutiny. And I'm surprised he still works in the league.
He was also really humble. Actually, there's a style of coaching that he has that I think Kyle Shanahan could use. Do you remember the 49ers-Eagles game several years back? They said the Eagles, they were going to prove whether or not they were a good team, if they could come beat the 49ers. And Antoine Bethea was the safety.
Oh, and Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was the coach of that team. Yep.
Right. And they beat him. Yeah. And Antoine Bethea, when they had them backed up in their own, goal line, he yelled, run, because he figured out the audible. Yeah. And Jim Tomsula was so fired, and they stuffed it. I mean, they crushed. He came in and filled the gap like you would not believe. And Jim Tomsula went dead silent. And he let Antoine Bethea coach the D-line.
Oh, nice.
Because he was letting them know, watch for what he says. It's a run. And, of course, they would change that probably halftime. I guarantee you the Eagles, Carson Wentz, he saw that, and he was like, we got to get that changed. But the point is, Kyle Shanahan's not really that kind of guy. If you notice, he's a lecturer. Because he's so intelligent, so capable, he has his book and he reads to you. He talks at you. He tells you what to do. I don't think he's really used to empowering.
I think you're right. And I think that, who did that, who served that function on the 49ers the last 4 years? The current head coach of the Jets. Yeah, the current head coach of the Jets. Saleh is so he has so much finesse that I think he was able to lead that team's. He was able to lead that team from the back seat without overshadowing Kyle. He let Kyle take the credit, but he filled in all the blanks that Kyle couldn't provide. I really believe that. And I'm curious. I mean, I think D'Amico Ryans is a natural leader too. We'll see if he can serve the function because it's necessary on this team. The head coach is a coordinator.
Robert Saleh is the father figure that we just lost, but D'Amico Ryans is one of the boys. It's going to be interesting to see how his on-field influence might be greater than Saleh. But Saleh is a very paternal presence, and I think that what Saleh had, that D'Amico Ryans might develop as he gets older, and I don't necessarily need him to. I want D'Amico Ryans to be D'Amico Ryans. I think there's that certain thing, like this dude's a gladiator on the field, like they respect him. But Saleh was as alpha as he was so soft. At the same time, he's like a giant grizzly bear, teddy bear kind of guy, and I think he really empowered guys to really feel like dad's watching me. He had that very fatherly influence. Kyle Shanahan,
Robert Saleh doesn't yell. He doesn't really curse. Yeah.
That bothers me, Dante Pettis. I know he has his own thing, but the way he came down on him and the management from a leadership aspect, you just can't do that. That's not how he squeezes these lemons.
I would love to hear Dante Pettis and Ahkello Witherspoon off the record, their thoughts about Kyle Shanahan. I bet you they would unload. And maybe Kyle Shanahan's side of the story is legit too, but those are two very young men.
Well, Goff, I want to hear more about what Goff has to say about McVay, because we've been talking about why McVay is such a great guy. He doesn't throw his guy under the bus. Okay, after the Super Bowl, that was true, but not the next season.
Nope.
Actions speak louder than words. McVay is he's very passive aggressive.
How do you figure? He'll say the right thing and then throw money. Yes.
The looks he gives.
Looks.
Maybe the questioning. Did you ever notice how when something went wrong, he would ask Goff what's going on? Like
on the field.
You can tell me why my beautiful, perfect plan didn't work. Is it maybe your fault? It began that way, I fear.
You know who McVay gets that from? You know who McVay gets that from? Who does the same thing, and I can't stand it? John Gruden. Whenever Derek Carr does something, John Gruden rolls his eyes. He's like, Derek again? Derek? Yeah, you're making me look bad, Derek. And I think he likes having Derek Carr on the team so he can be the scapegoat. He sticks with Derek Carr, but he constantly.
I'm surprised that he kept Derek Carr. Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, Kyle, I don't know how we got onto John Gruden and Sean McVay, but yeah, I see what you're saying there.
That's how.
Passive aggressive. I see what you're saying there. I think D'Amico Ryans can fill in the gaps for Kyle Shanahan's personality, but can he fill in the gaps of Robert Saleh's game planning? That was kind of what made Robert Saleh special. He had the combination of leadership.
D'Amico Ryans will have to be as flexibly minded because he's going to have the same style of playbook. He's going to have mostly the same players. It will be up to his finesse and whether or not he can adapt the same way. Okay. I think we will see more rushing because he's a linebacker.
Yeah, I agree. Michael Miller has the research for us. He says Kyle Shanahan played in 2001, 11 games, 7 catches, 65 yards. 2002, 12 games, 7 catches, 62 yards. Hey, I take it back. He was the Dante Pettis of Texas.
Only if he holds a record in punt returning, which never got used. So
that's true. Dante Pettis had a much better college career than Kyle Shanahan. Sorry, Dante. All right. Let's talk Jimmy. I've been going on the last few days talking about pretty much writing Jimmy Garoppolo off, saying that when Trey Lance beats him out, this is what the Niners should do with Jimmy. Trade him, cut him, whatever. Get the cap space. Redistribute it throughout the roster. Get some new players. Are you on board with that? And how would you handle it?
So let's recap what I have been saying to this point real fast. Women's roundtable, I said Jimmy G is the guy. Mm-hmm. Can Jimmy G still be the guy? I do think so. But the more I look at the rollover and cap space to next year, the more I salivate at the. Well, actually, I was going to say we should get a certain guy we might talk about later, but not anymore. But the bottom line is I think about who we might be able to get. And I'm a big-time Oakland A's fan. We are so good at using nothing to develop a winning roster. And Trey Lance is not nothing. He could be the future. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's so bad that he can't manage the offense. Not come the first game of the regular season. So the question is, do we want the money from Jimmy G to be able to keep everything else intact? And Super Bowl winning rosters, Patrick Mahomes is going to go through this as well.
Yes.
His contract, the contract of guys around him, it's going to eventually mean they can't bring in free agents the same way they used to. It's going to mean that they have to pay rookies on their contracts. They're going to have to let people go. And I think that Andy Reid and his staff will do a good job of managing that. So they won't get rid of Mahomes, but Garoppolo's not Mahomes. He's not mobile. He's not durable. He doesn't play a lot of games. His decision processes aren't the best. And from what I hear, Trey Lance is a gunslinger. Like, he knows where he's going. The physical gifts of this guy, he's a super athlete. So, I think I don't want to lose Jimmy G emotionally, but yet at the same time, professionally, I think we can moneyball this situation. I think we can do as well with a rookie quarterback. Whether we win the Super Bowl, that's another thing. Psychologically, mentally, I don't know how tough Trey Lance is. He seems like it. He's really composed at the podium, and he seems to answer questions with engagement and humility.
Yeah.
So,
would Billy Beane spend $27 million in a season on Jimmy Garoppolo? No, never.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, it's kind of like, even if he's not as good as Jimmy Garoppolo, let's say he's 2/3 as good, but he's making so much less money. You're gonna take that $25 million and let's go get a cornerback.
Yep.
Let's go get it. I honestly let's get a cornerback, maybe another edge rusher.
Yeah.
Fill out the defense. I think the offensive side is talented enough, even when it's not healthy. The defense looks great to me, but I think there are some glaring holes, and Jason Verrett better not go down.
Oh, exactly. They're one injury to Jason Verrett from having a bad secondary, and they got to count on that injury, at least for a couple of games. So, go get a corner.
Well, we have 3 really good defensive backs back there, Ward, Tart, and Verrett, who have all had significant injuries.
True. So you need depth, and you can't have it when you're spending $27 million.
It's Barvarius Moore. He's the one that ruptured his Achilles.
That's right. So,
and DJ Ward is not here.
So you put it in the secondary. You could get a corner. You get a safety. You could get a corner, safety, and an edge rusher. I like Justin Houston, but there's options.
So much. I don't understand how with Kerry Hyder, who had this renaissance in his career, I love the depth. So I will not say no one around him, but as far as household names, no one around him. Eric Armstead, isolated from the help he used to have from Buckner and Bosa. And Kerry Hyder, what could Kerry Hyder have actually done with just Bosa on the fields? And better yet, what would Bosa have done with Hyder on the fields? So
that's true.
I think we need to go out and get Justin Houston. Absolutely. I have been wanting that for weeks.
Absolutely. And it seems like he's going to hold out for about 10, 11, 12 million, which is probably worth it. And he's going to go to a team that's going to be a Super Bowl contender. And he could either help the Niners or he could hurt the Niners by going to one of their rivals. Yeah.
Small prediction. The Chiefs look at what just happened and go and get him.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But
Lynch, you better listen to that. That's not what we need.
That's right. I mean, he could come to the Niners or he could go and strengthen the team that the Niners might face in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know they like the idea of Jimmy Garoppolo. He seems to represent stability and a baseline of performance, but he's capping you also. You're not going to win the Super Bowl paying. He's the most overpaid player in the league.
Yeah, it's like, how do the 49ers get better? By letting our beloved Jerry Rice go. I know that's kind of a sacrilegious thing to say as a Niners fan, but we did.
Right.
We got better.
That's true. You could turn Jimmy Garoppolo into 3 players who are better than Jimmy Garoppolo. It's always a good trade. And it's something that Billy Beane will do. Yeah.
He's an above par quarterback. Why not just go get 3 above par players?
Thank you. Because the thing about having him and Trey Lance will be about $6 million this year. Jimmy will be about 27. That's $33 million on a position that you can only play one guy at a time. It's not helping you. You got to pick one. Don't ride the fence. And that's why you're having a competition.
I think they need to spend that cap space this year and next, because with extensions being due, that money will evaporate. But the point is that money's not there if Jimmy's still here. So people like Fred Warner, I think we will retain him, but it would make it so much more difficult on the coffers of the 49ers.
Right. So there's 2 things they could do. They could get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and then bring in 3 players and make a run this year, which is I like. Or if they don't find the players they want, they could roll over the cap space to next year and make an even bigger move next offseason when the cap's going to go back up because of the TV deal.
I like that better. And the reason I say that is because Trey Lance will be better next year than this year.
True.
So why not wait? Because his year to lead might literally be Mahomes-like.
Well, that's when Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl. I keep going back to the Seahawks, what they did 10 years ago.
It doesn't matter how good he is. That's going to be luck if he wins a Super Bowl because he's young. And yeah, it's going to take skill. But I like year 2. I do.
Yeah. If you remember with the Seahawks, they had Russell Wilson and Matt Flynn on the roster together in 2012 when Russell Wilson was the rookie. He started all 16 games and won a playoff game, lost in the playoffs. Then they got rid of Flynn year 2, brought in Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill.
It wasn't the Falcons they lost to? I can't remember.
Yes, they lost to the Falcons right at the end. Then they got rid of Flynn, brought in 2 major contributors on the defensive line, won the Super Bowl. So that could be the Niners. Yeah, that could be the Niners for sure. Because again, once Tom Brady finally starts playing like the age he is, this NFC is wide open. Who's in the Niners' way? Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think some of the big AFC contenders like the Ravens and the Chiefs, they have expansions too.
They do. All of a sudden, they're not going to be as dominant. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So speaking of that, seems like the Niners Super Bowl odds just went up yesterday when Frank Clark was arrested with an Uzi in his car, allegedly. I don't know. I'm supposed to say the word allegedly a lot. My mom told me. So that's fairly serious. If he can't play this year, you know, he's the highest paid player on the Chiefs and the 7th highest paid player in the league right now. So that's a big loss. He's really good. It's good news for the Niners.
I honestly think he's nearly as important to them as Warner is to us. First off, to put it in perspective, I think for Niners fans, as far as like, he's not the only motor on the line, but he is definitely a huge threat. Huge threat off the edge. He's a really good player. We saw him obviously in Seattle. Yeah, this is significant. First off, a Uzi. You don't have allegedly, but there is no defense to an alleged Uzi if it's verified that's what he had. That, for any of you who don't know, I'm sure you all do. That's an Israeli automatic assault weapon. Basically, it's like an automatic pistol. It's about this big in the box, if you will. They tend to have extended magazines, which he probably had, which are 50 rounds each. This is not used for household defense. We'll leave it at that. It's also really cool, and I guarantee you he saw it in James Bond or something like that, Jason Bourne. And it's a very cliche kind of weapon for someone to have, and it's just a very immature decision by him, and it's reckless.
Also, there's a story from him.
It's not one that he's going to get deferred prosecution over, I don't think.
No, I don't know how he's going to make this one go away. I mean,
this is not a pistol with a magazine in the back seats.
No, this is outrageous. And I don't know if you know, but there was a story about him at Michigan, a domestic violence story where he allegedly really, really beat up his girlfriend at the time. I think he was 21. So I don't know about this guy, but not good. I remember him interviewing him at the Super Bowl. He was there, and they do the whole media day, and he was sitting there answering questions about, like, he was the most normal person in the world. And it just shows you that media, we just don't know. They're professional. We ask questions. We have zero insight into their true character. I mean, I don't think he seemed normal.
Actually, I actually liked him when he was on the Seahawks. I stopped liking him when he took the shot at D Ford. Do you remember that? That was childish. And you know what? If you're that much better than D Ford, you know what? He would have had. As a person, I love D Ford. What he did for Nick Bosa. See, D Ford's a guy who's not on the field, and we're frustrated, but he's a great guy. Frank Clark's a guy who is on the field and produces and is questionable in the very least. So that's, to be honest with you, that's when I realized this guy's a brat. It's very childish to take a shot like that at D Ford. Seriously.
Yeah. So let's tie this into the. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, absolutely. Go ahead.
So the bigger picture here is that the Chiefs aren't as dominant as they seem. Their entire juggernaut is built on some questionable characters who may not be around. If Frank Clark falls apart, what is their team? I mean, they don't have the defensive line they used to have. Their defense kind of falls apart. And as we saw in the Super Bowl, they're a couple injuries away on the offensive line from being pretty beatable. So it's a good year for the Niners to make a run.
So they got Orlando Brown.
True.
That's huge. That takes care of Fisher, I would say,
yes,
or one of the guys that they lost. I love his style of play. I live here in Baltimore. I've seen a lot of Orlando Brown. Gutted them to lose him. So Offensive line, yeah, they better have drafted someone who can be a depth piece or brought someone in. I think they're the Buffalo Bills without Frank Clark. I think they're going to be pesky. I think it's Mahomes. Mahomes, like Brady, as long as he is inspired and has the ball in his hands, and he has Andy Reid calling plays.
Yes.
See, this is where Andy Reid, I think, will be the crutch for the Frank Clark loss. And Chiefs, you better get ready for that.
Yeah, you guys better score 30 points a game at least.
Exactly.
So what team, before we finish this up, what team would you say is the strongest team in the league right now? I have a thought.
I do like the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers, yes. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
First off, Tom Brady has become this philanthropist to the rest of his team. He's out there saying, I'll take less money. I'll take less money. Aaron Rodgers is up saying, I want more guaranteed, more contract. You've got Lamar Jackson, who's going to be due. You've got Mahomes, who that contract really begins to kick in.
Yes.
So the Buccaneers, I honestly think Tom Brady would play for league minimums at the very end of his career. He's like, hey, I'm 50 years old. I'll play for $750,000. An exaggeration, of course, but that's how do you compete with his leadership and his humility?
Yes. That's a good call. I agree.
It's unfair. But
okay, let me ask it another way then. What about the strongest team in the AFC?
I wish I could say the Ravens, but they have some glaring issues at wide receiver.
Yeah, they do.
I am not a Hollywood Brown fan.
No,
I love Lamar Jackson's style of play. I'm going to say this for the record. I think Giro destroyed Colin Kaepernick. I don't like the plays he called for him. I really don't. I know.
Do you think he's destroying Lamar?
So if you watch Lamar Jackson, I think he's gotten better, Giro, but I just don't think they do the play action correctly.
Correct.
Lamar is the best in NFL history. And you just don't know what he's going to do. He will roll out, and as a linebacker, you're pinned. You're going nowhere. And then if you try to tackle him, you will miss him, whether you hit him or not. Right. And the safety will have to clean it up every time. I mean, other people have to be involved with bringing this freak down. He's amazing. So I just don't think Greg Roman's a great offensive coordinator. I don't like what he did with Kaepernick. I think we tried to change the style of quarterback he was. And as long as Giro is trying to do that with Lamar, and I heard it in their local press, they want him, Harbaugh, he said it, that we want to work on his pocket passing.
That's what they said with Kaepernick.
He's not a pocket passer.
He's not a pocket passer. Get him out of the pocket. Roll him out.
Let him run.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I got one more team about Cleveland.
I like Cleveland a lot.
I like Cleveland.
So I can't give them the stamp yet just because they have to prove it.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to Baker. But damn, what they did with their secondary and their D-line, Jadeveon Clowney is overrated, but he's got someone else on that line that maybe you've heard about. So with Myles Garrett, they have reproduced what the 49ers had in their Super Bowl run.
I agree. They're a lot like the 2019 Niners, the Cleveland
They just
team.
don't have our linebackers, but they have good ones. They do have good ones.
That is true.
Man, the secondary, they gutted the Rams.
Oh, yeah. John Johnson. Yes, they absolutely did. We got a question from David. Not convinced that we really have a 21 Super Bowl shot. What gives us the best chances in 22 and 23? I say let Trey learn on the job this year, save cap. What do you think?
That is exactly David. Yeah, I think that you have a great point. That goes back to what Grant and I were saying earlier. I called it Oakland's Moneyball, basically rolling that cap space over. And as I said earlier, I don't think that year one rookie quarterback is going to be as good with playbook experience, literally just composure, as he will be in year two.
Yeah.
I think Russell Wilson is a really good landmark for us to answer this question, as Grant pointed out.
How many quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl in their first year starting? Not rookie, first year starting. I know Brady did it.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Did Warner do it? Kurt Warner did it. I think Kurt Warner did it. So it's been done. It's been done.
At the end of his career, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was like 30 years old. It's been done, but I think, like to David's point, they would have a better chance winning the Super Bowl with Trey Lance next year if it wasn't his first year starting. If it was his second year starting.
That gives us another draft.
Right.
We'll get to see how tough this team is physiologically this year. it will affect the 49ers draft plans next year. So between the draft and free agency, I think, and continuity. So we've been talking about continuity with Jimmy Garoppolo. Would we have a 5% better chance to win this year with Jimmy Garoppolo? Maybe, but I don't think it's for certain. We don't even know if he can be durable. And so where's the continuity if he gets injured? We've seen what happens there. So while I think Jimmy Garoppolo's biggest argument has been continuity, he hasn't actually provided it. So how many more lost seasons are we going to wait before we pull the trigger?
If there weren't a salary cap, I think you'd have to keep Jimmy. You'd have to. But there is a salary cap. And it went down this year. There's a pandemic. It went down. He's outrageously expensive. If he were the same price as Trey Lance, I could see the argument for starting Jimmy. As you were saying on the roundtable, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to start Jimmy. But when you start factoring in the economics of it, it becomes kind of unrealistic, I think.
What sent me over a little bit to Trey's side was actually I hadn't seen enough out of practice to really convince me that he was ready. But now they're saying he's getting red hot. And it seems
the narrative's changing, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Big time. No, I was just saying the narrative's changing, right?
But also Kyle Shanahan has given him more plays. There was that one practice, you brought this up a couple of weeks ago, in which Jimmy threw less passes. Very interesting.
It was 3-1.
Love what Mohamed Sanu is doing, by the way. I kind of hope he makes the roster as a security net maybe for Trey, just because he's got some chemistry there. I think he's better than Trent Taylor, a lot better. And he's smart. He's trying to make
Mohamed Sanu. He's trying to hitch his wagon to the winner, right?
That's why he's posting Instagram videos making fun of Trey Lance. He's trying to be one of the boys with Trey Lance. Right. He's a smart guy.
Right. That's right. Because honestly, I think if Mohamed Sanu thought Jimmy Garoppolo would be the starter all year, he'd be hanging out with Jimmy.
Absolutely.
He's not stupid. Because Mohamed Sanu was guaranteed to make the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, so Trey Lance going to be a starter? Well, I'm his favorite receiver. I'm his best friend. I'm his security blanket. Okay.
Smart. I would say this, though. The one coach that would look at that and say, so you're gone, would be Kyle Shanahan. Because he's going to say, we don't need the receivers to be good with him. We have my playbook.
That is true. That is true. But I want to just go back to the narrative shifting. It went from, yes, we're drafting Trey Lance, but we're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo because ideally we'd like Trey Lance to sit maybe 2 years, to, wow, he really picked up the entire offense awfully quickly and we're very impressed and we're going to have a competition. That's a huge shift. It seems to me if you're having an off-season training camp competition, the implication is that Jimmy could lose that before the season even starts, despite all the stuff he's done in the regular season in the past. Otherwise, why have a competition?
Right. See, I agree with that, except that it's Kyle Shanahan having the competition. I think there's a chance he's just lighting a fire under his butt.
Fair.
He has a style of leadership that creates a predatory environment between players. He loves competition versus how to put this? You have to be careful how much you beat down your players publicly. You have to give them some support. Like McVay and Goff, like what happened there. Or Dante
pump up their egos. You want them to have egos.
Right. Because confidence is half the fight.
Yeah.
And especially for Jimmy Garoppolo, he needs a boost right now. You know, he does need a little bit of it. He's a pretty stalwart guy. He's pretty good at managing his own emotions. That guy has been under more fire than I think any player I have seen in my career. And he continues to smile. And I don't think any of us should mistake that as narcissism. I think we should see that for what it is. And that's, he's rolling with the punches and knows he's not the guy. He knows he's not completely loved, but he's here to do his job. So I just think that, there's a narrative that there is a competition. There's obviously a competition, but I don't know, because it's Kyle Shanahan, if it's a serious one.
Here's the way I look at it. Kyle Shanahan is always in his own world, right? He sees things the way he wants to see them, not the way they really are. And sometimes that matches up, sometimes it doesn't. Like with the Mac Jones thing, if we really think that he needed to be convinced not to take Mac Jones at 3, that he needed the entire freaking fan base to like go up in arms for him to be like, okay, fine. Well, what could happen is when Trey Lance plays in a preseason game and everyone sees him for themselves, that it's just so much different, so much better, that the fans would react to Jimmy starting week 1 the same way they would react if Mac Jones had been the pick. That at a certain point, the fans make the decision. They see him. It's different. It's great. It's exciting. That could
I have
happen.
a question for you on that.
Yes. Yes.
Would you agree that one of the things that would light up us fans and be completely Trey Lance fans would be to see his rollouts and his play actions and see what his legs could do?
Yes.
So then my second question to you is, will Kyle Shanahan call those plays?
If he wants him to win the competition, yes. If he doesn't want him to win the competition, then no. So I guess that's a good litmus test right there. How Kyle Shanahan calls the plays for Lance in this. Like, whenever Beathard was in the game, I always felt like Kyle was doing his best to prop him up. Let's get him outside the pocket, give him easy throws. Let's, inflate his numbers. Is he going to do that for Trey Lance, or is he going to say, all right, Trey, 7-step drop, bombs away, either hit or you don't, sink or swim, let's see what you got? We'll see. I don't know.
We will see.
I don't know. Yeah. You really can't assume anything with Kyle. He's an enigma. The idiot savant, as you called him. That's our show. Thank you very much, Sybilla. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back, and thanks for all the questions, everyone. And I'll see you guys again soon.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. This was terrific. Thank you very much, everyone. See ya.